Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 3 of the HoopsCrush podcast. As always, co-hosted by Brady Parks, aka Crushables, and I'm Eric Brandt, aka HoopsJock. How you doing today, Brady?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which is our predictions for the season. Uh, as of recording right now, the season starts 1 week from tonight. By the time this is out, it'll be less than a week. It's getting to be about that time, Brady. Are you excited for the season to start?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Preseason isn't doing it enough for me, so I'm ready for this regular season to start already.
Yeah. So when you were doing your predictions, are you fairly confident about them?
Absolutely not. If there's anybody out there, by the way, because what we're doing is our standings predictions, basically. So we're also gonna do our awards, but yeah, 15 to first or 15 seed to first seed. If there's anybody out there that's like super confident in their predictions, then I don't know how. Like this is tough, especially the West. Like the West is insane.
The
So,
middle of the West is very difficult.
so yeah, I don't feel confident at all.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
there's
much,
so many teams that like could make it, and then there's you just don't know. It's crazy.
yeah, much like our youth episode from last stream or last podcast. I If you want to tell me I'm an idiot for having a team, like I probably agree with you in the comments. Like,
Yeah, it's gonna be
so yeah,
tough, man.
go ahead and tell us what you think where we got things wrong, and give your standings predictions in the comments. Also, give your awards predictions as well. So let's just start in the Eastern Conference.
Okay, that's the easier one, even though it's
right.
kind of tough too. But yeah.
So who's the bottom dweller for you in the East?
I chose Wizards.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole. I mean, I think he'll have a great season most likely with the amount of shots he'll get. I assume they maybe trade Kuzma at the deadline. So yeah, I mean, they feel like they're going to tank this year. So that was kind of easy for me.
Yeah, I have the Wizards as well. Completely agree. They feel like the one team that isn't actually trying to be good this year. Out of all the other teams, I think you can make the case that they're trying to be at least better than they were last year. The Wizards are the one exception, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so who's 14?
Yeah, number 14, I had Detroit. And it sucks because I expect maybe a big jump from them, but my reasoning was maybe they're just still too young, and Cade Cunningham, I don't feel like has played enough yet, but I could definitely eat my words for sure.
Yeah, I have the Hornets at 14. They were bad last year, but LaMelo was hurt most of the year, so you expect him to be back. They got Brandon Miller now. Now they're dealing with all this stuff from not only re-signing Miles Bridges, but now another incident. So the fallback from that's gonna put a lot of pressure on this organization, and I feel like they're not good enough to be better than any team above them, even if they are decent. But yeah, I still think they're a couple years away from being in the playoffs.
Yeah, I had Hornets at 13, so pretty close. Basically everything you said. I don't think they're ready yet.
I had the Pistons at 13, so we just flipped 13 and 14.
Okay, not too bad so far.
I wanted to put the Pistons higher, but yeah, I just don't think they're ready to quite make a jump past some of the teams ahead of them. I think the following season they should shoot up past some of these mediocre middle of the road teams that might blow it up after this season if they continue to be in the play-in range or miss the playoffs. So I think they're right there on the cusp of turning the corner, but just not quite this season due to some of the teams above them still not falling off yet.
Yeah, I agree. Number 12 for me was the Chicago Bulls. I'm expecting them to blow it up, to be honest with you. I mean, DeMar DeRozan is on the last year of his contract. I expect this team to either be, under 500 or middle of the road, and maybe they should look themselves in the mirror and start to think about, trading players away. So I'm expecting that. So that's why I have the Bulls not making the play-in this year.
Yeah, I also have the Bulls at 12, so I'm right there with you. I think they're trying too hard to keep it together. They should have, much like a team we'll probably talk about a couple spots higher, but they should have blown it up last year and decided not to. Like we said, who knows if DeRozan's going to resign? So are they going to have to trade him to just not lose him for nothing? And then Levine was in several trade rumors this summer. So yeah, I could definitely see them just blowing it up completely. Or I could also see them foolishly just trying to hold on and barely make the playoffs or miss the playoffs every year and just have that be their norm from now on.
Brogdon's a bull by the deadline, we say.
I don't. That'd be such a weird trade for them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it. Lonzo's not going to play this year, and who knows if he'll ever play or be the same again. But yeah, if you could get some value for taking on his contract in a situation like Portland, where they aren't expected to be in the playoffs anyway, so you can afford to eat a contract for a year or two, I would definitely look into that.
My number 11, I feel like might be surprising to some people. I have the Brooklyn Nets here at number 11. They had a negative record after they made all the trades at the deadline. Mikal Bridges did have a great season last year, obviously, once he got there. But for some reason, I'm just not expecting to hold up for them.
I am shocked. You know why?
Why?
Because I also have the Nets at 11.
Wow, so far we're basically on the same spectrum. That's
nice.
Crazy.
I completely agree with you there. I think I wanted to put them higher. I do like a lot of their pieces. I'm a big Mikal Bridges guy. I'm a big Claxton fan. And I like Cam Johnson. I like some of the young players they have. But, yeah, it's just like it's hard because I feel like there's a younger team that's passed them by, and then I feel like they're not quite as good as some of the other powers. And like you said, they were kind of average after the trade deadline, even when they were playing well. It still wasn't translating to a lot of wins. So yeah, I had them at 11 as well.
So I wonder if we agree at 10, where I have the Raptors.
Oh. Not quite.
Okay, I was about to say we're getting kind of close, but yeah, the Toronto Raptors. I mean, I could see a world where this team maybe blows up at the deadline, but then again, Masai Ujiri feels like he's just too stubborn and never seems to want to do that ever. So I expect him to stand pat at the deadline, maybe even acquire somebody like I did with Pirtle last year, and yeah, I'm expecting them to be just kind of a mid team again.
Yeah, I have them a step higher at 9. So. Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I think they're okay. Like, Schroeder is a competitor, so, like, I think he'll help that team. Grady Dick should provide some shooting that they've been lacking last couple of years. And then you have the two guys in their last year of their contract in Siakam and OG. And so, yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what Ujiri does with those two guys, whether he tries to re-sign him or he just finally decides to pull the trigger on a reset. I'd be surprised if that happened, though, because he just hasn't
never
been willing to do
Nope.
it. But at number 10, right behind the Raptors, I have the Orlando Magic.
I have them at 9, so we're backwards. So
we can talk about them at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wanted to put them higher too, but I think the step up to 10 is still a pretty big step. And I think they played really well after a slow start last year. And if they can stay healthy and they don't have any injuries to any of their guards, when you have Wagner and Paul Banchero there at the forwards, I think you're pretty much set in a lot of games and you're going to win a lot of games. So I think they're ready to at least make the play-in this year.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they would maybe be able to do it last year. It's probably too early to predict it, but I think this year I'm expecting a play-in jump for the Magic. So that's where I had them as well at number 9. So top 8 now.
All right, who do you have at 8?
I have the Hawks. I have the Atlanta Hawks. Just kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. Maybe they get Siakam at the deadline. I know they've been kind of trying. But yeah, I mean, not too much to say other than I just think the teams above them are better.
Yeah, I have the Pacers at 8. Another team I kind of wanted to put higher, but I think they're a little too inexperienced to make a jump higher than this. But, you know, they got Obi Toppin for pretty much free. They make a great draft pick in Jarvis Walker, in my opinion. And this team was hanging around the playoff race last year until they fell off towards the end. But I definitely think they can actually make the play-in this year and possibly in the playoffs.
Yeah, at number 7, so I'm not quite there with the Pacers yet, but they're coming. I actually have the Miami Heat.
Okay.
I thought their roster got worse in the offseason, although it's just Gabe Vincent and Strus. I get that. Like, maybe they can easily replace those guys. Obviously, the big story was them getting Dame the whole offseason. It didn't happen. They were a playing team last year. Of course, they made it to the finals. But I'm expecting maybe them to repeat their regular season success and be in the play-in again at 7.
All right. Well, at 7, I have the Atlanta Hawks, who you had at 8. I feel like they have a pretty good roster, and Trae Young has struggled at times since they made the Eastern Conference Finals, but he always seems to get it together at some point. I think this year they're looking like they could hit the ground running a little more than they have in the past. They have a lot of wings. I don't know if any of them are like elite wings, but they have a lot of them. And so as long as one or two of those guys break out or have a good season or stay healthy, I think they'll be all right. They still have the bigs in Okongwu and Capella. So yeah, I think they're gonna be right around that non-play-in / first play-in game. Right.
And also, John Collins not being there is going to open up something for someone else. So I think that's kind of a huge role that someone will get there.
They finally traded him.
Finally. Trade rumors forever never ended up happening. At number 6, I have the Indiana Pacers. I expect a huge Halliburton jump. I expect Mathurin to keep getting better. Bruce Brown, I think, is a great get for them in the offseason. Jarvis Walker. Miles Turner is still a solid big. I'm expecting a nice little run in the regular season for the Pacers and start to show what they can be. Now, obviously, I don't think they're a contender by any means, but 6th seed I don't think is too crazy for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot to mention Bruce Brown. That's going to really do wonders to solidify themselves, getting someone with championship experience in there and a guy who does all the little things. And my number 6 team is the Miami Heat. You had them a step lower, but yeah, I actually think the Heat are going to be pretty good this year. I know.
Yeah, I'm just starting to. I almost was trying not to laugh because you know.
I know. But like, well, first of all, they have a really good coach, so
yeah,
you're always in the mix there. I think as long as Jimmy Butler and Bam stay healthy, I think Tyler Hero is going to be on a mission to prove people wrong this year.
Sound like a true Miami Heat fan right now.
And I think Gabe Vincent might be a huge loss because he played a key role for them. But Strus really, I mean, he played a lot, and he got hot at times, but it was really like Caleb Martin and Jimmy and Bam that helped them in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't think it'll hurt them too much. I think Hawkheads can come in and replace some of the minutes that Strus had. So yeah, as long as they get good point guard play out of someone, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they still have a good. I mean, we saw them just go to the finals, so we know how good they can be. It's just a matter of having that success in the regular season. So we'll see. My number 5 is the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson's really good. Julius Randle still saw in the regular season. Will RJ Barrett ever take a jump? Most likely not. Just kind of a solid whatever. I don't even know what to really call him. But, I mean, they have a solid roster, and there's still the possibility they make a trade for someone at the deadline to make themselves even better. They got Josh Hart, of course, at the last year's trade deadline from us. And, yeah, expect the Knicks to be in the thick of things again. Now, I remember the last time they made the playoffs, the next year they were bad. But with Brunson being here now, I don't expect that to be the case this time around.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they solidified themselves with a lot of good role players. They picked up Dante DiVincenzo as well. He had a nice season for the Warriors last year. So they have a lot of players that can help them win games in the regular season. I still don't think they're set up for a deep run in the playoffs or anything, even though they made the second round last year. I think that's kind of their ceiling. But I actually have them as the 4th seed in the East, just because I think their depth will allow them to be better than a team that I have no idea how to feel about them right now, and I have them at 5th is the Philadelphia 76ers.
Backwards for me, exactly. I had them above.
Yeah, so what do you do with them? Like, is Harden gonna actually play, or what's like this will be interesting. We've heard all kinds of rumors about the Clippers not being willing to give more for their or up their offer at all for Harden. So is this going to play out into the regular season? Will Morey keep Harden as long as he needs to, even though he's unhappy? We'll see. I just think that's too big of a loss without getting a replacement. And if he plays, I don't think he's going to be like normal James Harden because his head won't be in it. So yeah, I have him at 5th.
Yeah, one thing about the Knicks, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I could see Mikal Bridges, reuniting with his Villanova boys, and they find a way to get him at the deadline. Maybe.
Interesting.
I could see it. It depends how bad the Nets are, though, and if they're really gonna do something like that. Because the Knicks do have assets, but it's just a matter of will the Nets do it is the question. Because so far they've not wanted to. So I had to throw that out there. And then, like you said, the 76ers. I mean, is Joel Embiid still going to be on the team by the deadline? There's a lot of questions. There was a report today from Sham saying that, although Harden's been professional, which is good. It's good because that's something we haven't seen from Harden. We've obviously seen him do a lot of different things. But he still hasn't, practiced much with the team, only one practice, and hasn't attended preseason. So, yeah, 76ers are hard to gauge right now for sure. So that leads us to our top 3, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So my third seed in the East, I'm assuming we probably have the same team because I assume the other two obviously were kind of obvious. Cavaliers. I have Cavaliers at 3. So I'm expecting an Evan Mobley agenda this year. I expect a big breakout from Evan Mobley. That might lead into something later on. I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, I think the Cavaliers showed what they could do last year. As long as Mitchell's on this team, Garland's going to take a jump. I could see them maybe trading Jarrett Allen away at the deadline for something, maybe moving Evan Mobley to that 5 role if they wanted to, or they could just keep it the way it is right now. Whatever they want to do, they got a lot of versatility at this moment. But I'm expecting the Cavaliers with Mitchell, if he wants to stay there, they're going to be a good team. I mean, they got the score, they got the defense, it's all there for them.
Yeah, that's my only pause is, does the Donovan Mitchell situation get to a point where they have to move him just because he was not willing to sign an extension and they don't want to risk losing him? So that would be the only thing, other than injuries, of course, which you can say that about just about any team. But I don't feel like they have a lot of depth. They have some depth, but not as good as their start, nowhere near as good as their starters. So if one of their 4 main starters go down, or their 4 main core between Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen go down, I think they're in a lot of trouble. But as long as those guys are healthy, I think they're pretty easily better than all the teams below them, except for the top 2. All right. Uh-huh. All right, so now I have to know. How do you have these last 2? Who's 1, who's 2? All right. Okay. All right. Dame's going to lead them to the 1 seed. All right. I have it flipped. I have the Bucks at 2. And yeah, I think for me, I'm going to have the Bucks beating the Celtics in a playoff series, but I think regular season the Celtics have proven with Tatum and Brown that they're really good in the regular season, and the Bucks have been good in the regular season as well, but I could see them kind of coasting a little bit or taking some time to get used to each other, whereas the Celtics, even though they added a couple new guys in Drew and Porzingis, I think they're going to fit in a little bit more smoothly and not have to worry about whose team it is and who's taking the shots and stuff like the Bucks might have to worry about initially with 2 30-point per game scorers. So I think the Celtics will just be smoother all season, whereas the Bucks might have a little bit of a roller coaster while they try to work on some things and not quite care about wins during the regular season.
The only thing that worries me about the Celtics, but I mean, you can make this argument with a lot of people, obviously, like Porzingis. I'm worried about his health overall, if he stays healthy, or how many games does he play. There's someone else in the Celtics, for some reason I'm blanking, that I'm concerned about their injury history as well. I don't know why I'm blanking at the moment.
Well, Drew has been, I mean, he's getting up there, so.
And then Al Horford, maybe.
Al
mean,
Horford.
yeah, I don't know. I think they'll most likely be fine, but that's something that does worry me just a little bit.
Yeah.
But we move on to the West now?
Yeah, let's move on to the West.
All right, this was the harder one in my opinion.
Yes,
so this list could get crazy.
Who's the worst in the West?
Dude, I don't even like this one. I don't know. I have the Spurs at 15. I don't even know if I love that at all.
Yeah. I have the Spurs as 15 as well. I have the Rockets at 14. I don't know if that's who you have at 14.
I have the Blazers at 14.
Okay, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, the Spurs, I feel like they're going. It's so hard because I think they're a lot better with Wemby, but I don't know, like, if they're better than any team above them. Like, it's going to be hard for them to get past any teams. And I would say the Rockets are going to be like a year or two away, but they're like every decision that seems they're making is just to make the playoffs this year, and that's all they care about, or like be better this year. And they're kind of sacrificing long-term development for just a little bit of improvement this year. So I think the Spurs are the only team that I could see. Maybe the Jazz, but I think the Jazz are a little too good. But those are the only couple teams that I see like full on possibly tanking at some point.
Yeah, so for me, Spurs at 15. Will Vic play enough? I don't know if there'll be like a resting thing for him. I know the NBA is trying to crack down on that. And then, I mean, everything, I mean, it's just hard. This Western Conference is so tough. I'm not sure. As far as the Blazers are concerned at 14, I expect them to make some trades at the deadline with Brogdon, potentially Jeremy Grant if some team's lining up for him, Thibault potentially. So I could see a world where this team is, looking to tank, and we're just, going through the motions and trying to get a high lottery pick again, which is why I have them at 14. But 13, not too far off, was the Houston Rockets. Their roster is just weird. Like you said, it's just kind of bizarre. I mean, like the starting five they announced the other night, I'm sure not everyone was playing, but you just like have, I'm assuming Jalen Green wasn't playing, but he wasn't even starting, but I'm sure he was out. So it's just a weird roster overall. I mean, I'm not really sure what to think of them. I already told you guys last episode, I love their young core. It's my favorite in the NBA most likely. But it's just like, are those guys going to even be able to develop with all the veterans in front of them that definitely have to play because of how much money you paid them? So it's just tough to gauge.
And there's too many rumors about them going after Brogdon.
Yeah, that too.
Alec Burks, and there was one other player, I forget who it was, but it's like all these veterans. It's like, why? Like,
and they signed Reggie Bullock, so that's how you know they're really trying to make the playoffs. Yeah. It feels like
it's like develop some of your young guys and just keep going. You have a better coach now, in theory, so like he should be able to coach up the young players and get them to play the way they want to. I just feel like they went way too far into the vet thing, and they locked them all up long term with huge contracts, so they can't even really move them if they have to easily. So they're going to be kind of stuck, in my opinion, for a couple years now.
You're number 11, right? Or did you already say it? Or whatever. Sorry,
13.
Number 13. Sorry, I'm skipping too far ahead.
My 13 is the Utah Jazz. Like I said, they're really talented. I expect kind of a season similar to last year where they are kind of flirting with the playoffs again. And then at some point in the season, they realize that, wow, there's not that many teams below us in the standings. We could easily jump back several spots and potentially get a number one pick or a high top 5 pick or whatever. So I think they're going to try it first like they did last year, but I could definitely see Ainge wanting to follow that same pattern that he did with the Celtics, where they built their team off a lot of high draft picks. And not necessarily their own draft picks, but they have a lot of other teams' draft picks in the future too to maneuver around draft boards and stuff. So I think they felt like they had I wasn't really like a wasted year, but getting the ninth pick was like probably the worst case for their rebuild, especially in last year's draft where, if you would have gotten in the top three, it could have been a game changer for them. So I think this year they'll kind of, even though they're good, I think they'll kind of readjust and not be quite as good.
Yeah, 12 for me was the Jazz, so we're not too far off there. I expect there to maybe be some trades for this team at the deadline. Is there a possibility that the Jazz look into moving Markkanen? I don't think that's too crazy to say. I mean, he has been kind of the guy there, obviously, at the moment. So maybe they wouldn't even consider it. I think Clarkson is someone that could be moved for sure. But it's just overall a roster that, has Markkanen. They have Kessler. Clarkson's really solid. But I'm still wondering who, like, the young guy is there that's going to break out for their rebuild going forward. So I'm not really sure they have that yet. Markkanen obviously has kind of helped with that. But he is like 26, about to be, or I don't know his exact age at the moment, but I know he's like 26, 27 or something like that. So I think Markkanen is definitely somebody that could be moved down the line for them unless they plan on keeping him long term, which they definitely could. I'm just not really sure what the Jazz are going to do this season, but I have them at 12.
That's who the other guy was, Taylor Horton Tucker, that the Rockets are trying to get. It makes no sense. Like, just play Cam Wetmore, man. He's like a better version of Taylor Horton Tucker, right? Yeah. I don't know if they'll trade Markkanen, but yeah, I don't know. I like Taylor Hendricks and Keontae George a lot, but I don't know if they're like guys that are going to be top options on a team, like 2 or 3 options. They're more probably 3, 4 guys, but like good role players, So yeah, I'm not sure if they have that star player yet that's going to elevate their franchise. My number 12 was the New Orleans Pelicans, and this might be totally unfair, but I'm done trusting them. I until Zion can prove that he's healthy. They were really good up until the point he got hurt last year, but then the wheels fell off and it just wasn't the same. So I think as long as that is a possibility, it's just hard to predict them much higher. And also, I mean, they're still very reliant on CJ as their lead guard, who at times can be good, but he was very frustrating for a lot of fans last year there. And Trey Murphy's one of my favorite candidates to be an all-star eventually. Probably not this year, but within the next few years. I think he's going to blossom at some point. But yeah, I don't think they have enough firepower to make the playoffs in the loaded West this year.
Definitely see where you're coming from there. Caesar McCollum's a little inconsistent at times. Was everything they needed at first as soon as he first got there, but after that, it's been ever since he got the extension. It's like been very inconsistent. My number 11. I'm kind of scared. I gotta duck when I say this. I have the Kings.
Okay.
I feel like I could see a regression from them. They had a very, very healthy season last year. I feel really bad for I feel very bad for doing this. But I just feel like the teams above them are better, and it sucks to have put them this low. And this could age poorly. Trust me, I get it. But I'm just expecting a regression. I'm expecting health not to hold up as much as it did last year. And I also don't think they got much better this offseason. I wanted them to maybe go like big fish hunting with their free agency money that they had, and they just spent it re-signing Harrison Barnes. I mean, they did add like Chris Duarte. I might be missing some. They added Sasha. But yeah, for the most part, I don't think the Kings got that much better, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess I'll finish talking about them in a minute, but one thing you didn't mention is, in addition to the health, I completely agree with you. It's hard to predict when a team has like the best health in the league. That's just probably not sustainable. So it's a good bet to like say that that's going to be different this year. But also, I feel like De'Aaron Fox was amazing in clutch moments last year. Did he win the inaugural clutch player award or whatever? Was that last year?
Yeah, I think he got it last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he should have because he was amazing in the clutch. But as us Blazer fans know, it's so hard to like just like count on that to happen like every game to have someone bail you out, and it's just long term. It just the percentages balance out, and you just you stop hitting these ridiculous shots at some point, which they won a lot of close games, so it can factor in, especially with how close the standings will probably be. So I could definitely see that, but I have them a little higher.
Okay, what was your 11
My,
then?
my 11 is the Portland Trailblazers. I I think they are purposely trying to set expectations super low right now, so that they're going to try and win. And I don't think they're going to tank at all this season, even if they're in a position where they should tank. I think it's a situation where they want to show the fans that they're all about winning, and they're committed to winning. So I don't think they're going to do that to the fans this year. Um, and I think they're going to. It worries me because of the coaching situation. Chauncey has not shown an ability to get his players to play the way he wants them to. So that's the tough part about predicting them any higher than this. I actually wanted to predict them higher, but I just feel like they have too many pieces and players that are pretty dang good. And yes, they're young, but like in their actual rotation, it's only going to be like Scoot and Sharp, and then maybe some backup power forward minutes between Jabari Walker and Chris Murray or Tamani Kamara. And I don't think that's like super young, because all the rest of the guys are all off their rookie deals. They're all on their second contracts. They've all been around a long time. They have guys like Ayton who have a lot to prove in this league. They have Anthony Simons, who I think people are absolutely sleeping on. We've talked about him before on the show. I think he's going to just be the man this year and have a huge jump. And then I think Jeremy Grant's solid. They got some good defensive pieces now in Thibault and Robert Williams. Some pieces that Chauncey hasn't had on the roster before. And despite how bad they've looked in preseason, they looked terrible last year and got off to a good start. I think they might get off to a slow start this year just because their schedule is so tough. They have to go on a road trip right away after the Magic game. But yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling they're going to exceed expectations, and everyone's going to talk about what a feel-good story it is because this young team that traded away Dame played better than with Dame last year.
Yeah, the Blazers are in like the perfect spot right now where if they are bad, then what did you expect? We were supposed to be bad, and then if we're good, like look, see, we knew we were doing the whole time. So it's like yeah, exactly. So they're in a good sweet spot at the moment, little to no expectations, which leads us to number 10, right? Okay, so my number 10 was the Pelicans. So I do have them as a that is a play-in team. I almost said borderline, but they're a play-in team for me at 10th seed. I mean, it's Zion's health. That's what it all boils down to. The man is super talented, freak athlete. Obviously a player we've barely, seen play basketball like this before, and it just hasn't held up for him every time he's playing. They're a very, very good team, but the problem is how long is he going to be available? That's the problem with them.
Yeah, it's so exciting to watch, man. It's so frustrating. I mean, I don't know what you do if you're the Pelicans, whether you just keep hoping he gets healthy or you eventually move on from him. But yeah, they really need him to play a majority of the games this season. My number 10, it's a team that I was very high on last year. They were coming off a Western Conference Finals appearance, and I just thought they did not look good last year. I thought they could be carried by their star and it didn't matter who the roster was, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. Um, Luka is so good, and I felt like they were going to just easily make the playoffs every year just because they had him. But with teams getting better around him, it's hard to put that pressure on one player to do it. And I know they have Kyrie now, but that's another player that hasn't been dependable the last few years. Um, and it's still a questionable fit with him and Luka. How's that going to look? They didn't really have much of a chance to answer that question last year, so
And
we don't know.
they were very bad together last year too.
Right. Um, and I do love Derek Lively and Omax Prosper. I feel like those were two really good pickups by them in the draft. They get Grant Williams as well. So I think they should be better defensively, much like they were 2 years ago. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know, something's been missing since they lost Brunson, just that toughness on the team. Maybe Grant Williams provides some of that, but he's not as good of a player as Brunson was. So yeah, it's hard for me to see them being better than some of these other teams unless just everything goes right for them and some of their young guys are better off right away than expected.
Yeah, definitely see where you're coming from on the Mavericks there. I have them a little bit higher, but at number 9 for me, I have the Timberwolves.
Okay.
The biggest thing for me is, will this Gobert and Cat experiment work? I mean, they got to hope it works, because obviously we know what they gave up to get him. We didn't really get to see it that much last year. The sample size we got was pretty small, which is why I figured they wouldn't move on from it that quickly. I know a lot of people were saying trade Cat or trade Gobert or whatever, but if you're the Timberwolves, you invested all that all that you did. You have to see if it at least works for like a larger sample size than what you got. And I mean, I'm just wondering. I mean, I was very high on them last year. I was out there psychopath saying first seed in the West. Like, I don't know why. I was just drinking the Kool-Aid for them, and that did not work out at all. They were playing team last year, kind of expecting it again. I do love Anthony Edwards. Like, that's the one thing that makes me hate picking them this low. But it's just overall, I'm just wondering how this Gobert Cat experiment is going to work for this season, if it stays, if they both stay healthy for this season.
Yeah, I right there with everything you said. I'll get to the Timberwolves on my list in a minute. But first, I have my number 9 team, and I am going to get so much heat for this.
Let me guess. Is it the Grizzlies?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I think the Grizzlies are picked low, are picked in this range by a lot of people because
Ja Morant. Yeah, that's why I guessed it.
But this is everyone's darling team. Everyone's just expecting like a huge.
Oh, I know. Them. I think I know who.
And it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think Chet's going to be amazing. I think SGA is clearly, top 12, 15 player in the league. I think that's unquestioned now. I like a lot of their other pieces as well. It's just hard to make that jump from the middle of the pack to high up in the pack. And what the Kings did last year, like going from a non-playoff team to like the 3rd seed, that's hard to do, man. And especially with how good some of these teams are and how experienced some of these teams are. So unless they get a lot of injury luck, both with Chet and SGA and stuff staying healthy, plus like injuries to other key players on other teams, I just think they're going to have a tough time this season breaking through that ceiling and being like one of the top seeds and for sure making the playoffs and not a play-in team. Could be completely wrong there. I just think they're going to have a little bit of that I don't know what you want to call it in this situation because it's not their sophomore season, but like a sophomore season slump where the year after you have the high expectations and teams are ready to play you. You're no longer a doormat, and you're like teams are going to get up to want to put them back into place and stuff like that. So I think they might struggle a little bit this year.
Yeah, that's as you said, that's everyone's darling team. So you might get some heat for that one. But you could be right. I mean, I don't think anything you said was too crazy. So, definitely don't blame you for having them there. But I will say I had them a little higher, so we'll get to
All right.
them. We'll get to them when
Can't
we
wait
get
to
to
see how
them.
high you have them.
Yeah. My number 8 though, top 8 in the West, I had the Mavericks. I mean, similar to what everything you said earlier. I'm just questioning how much Olivier Maximus Prosper and Derek Lively can contribute right away. Obviously, Rashawn Holmes is there. I don't know if that's going to be their starting center out the gate or if they're going to start Lively out the gate. I'm not really sure what to expect from the Mavericks as their starting five. I know Grant Williams will probably be out there with Kyrie and Luka. And as I said, Kyrie and Luka weren't very good together last year. I know that they had to resign Kyrie because obviously they went for it at the deadline. And, I mean, they needed to take a chance, so I don't blame them necessarily. And maybe if Kyrie and Luka doesn't work out, they can flip Kyrie for something else. Not really sure, but I have them at 8. I think they'll be a solid team, but the West is still really good.
Yeah, I have a team at 8, the Timberwolves that you mentioned already. They're just kind of mad to me. Like they're at times they look like they're ready to take a big jump. At times they look like, man, why did I even think they were going to be good? They're a very frustrating team, and even Anthony Edwards, who is a great player, and the reason why I have him at 8, like at times he just like goes through some stretches where it's like, well, is he gonna start playing like Anthony Edwards? Like he still needs some to be consistently the man, and kind of take that step to where you're bringing it every night, game in and game out. And but I do think they have enough talent. I think they're pretty deep. They got a lot of good role players, in my opinion. So I think it's enough to be here. Obviously, if they have an injury to Anthony Edwards, it's devastating. If they have one of their bigs go down for a long period like they did last year with Cat, I think that's also going to hurt. But as long as those three stay healthy, I think they have the pieces around them to be a pretty solid team.
Yeah, for sure. Number 7 for me, similar to health. That's a big theme with this team every year. I have the Clippers. This might be low for some people, but I'm not going to trust Kawhi to play all 82 games ever again. I don't feel like, just don't really think that's going to be possible. Will Paul George miss some time? Just not really sure what to expect from the Clippers this year because on one hand, you have Kawhi and Paul George both on player options. And if you're Steve Ballmer, do you really want to commit to these guys long term for another however many years that they want when they're up there already at 33 and like 34? So I think there's going to be a lot of questions to ask. I mean, I expect them to just go into the playoffs contending, obviously. But it's going to be an interesting offseason if those two aren't extended. If they would just stay, would Ballmer want to commit to them? Especially if like more injuries occur. Like, do you want to continue to keep repeating this process while these guys are this old? So yeah, I think the Clippers' future is definitely going to be very interesting to watch and what they decide to do with these two guys because obviously they committed a lot to get them. But so far, health has been the biggest problem and it has not worked out so far. And I feel like this could be like the last chance. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. I'll talk about the Clippers more when I get to them on my list. My number 7 is the Sacramento Kings. You had them where?
I had them at
November
11, which
11.
was
That's right.
pretty wild, but
Yeah. I do agree with you that they're going to have a little bit tougher of a time this season, and the things we talked about, you can't count on clutchness and injury luck to be as good as it was last year. So yeah, it seems like a slight since they were the 3 seed last year. It was such a fun story, light the beam, all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I do feel like they didn't do enough to solidify themselves. They kind of rested on uh, just them being good enough to get right back there. And when other teams don't rest on that and keep adding talent year after year and make big moves and go all in, the Kings could still do that this at some point this season. Whether it's make an all-in move for like an OG and an Obi type, that might be a good move for them. But as of right now, I think they're just kind of going to be in that range where unless there's a tremendous injury luck again. I have a hard time seeing them being better than some of the powerhouses in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys know why I have the Kings as low as I did. But I can see them being 7. I can see them, maybe repeating being a third seed. I mean, third seed would be wild, but I mean, no one
Yeah.
expected that last year. We'll see. My number 6 is the Grizzlies. I mean, John Morant's going to miss, isn't it 25 games, right? 25?
I think so. 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so John Morant's going to miss some games. They've been pretty good without him when he has missed some time. So I don't expect the Grizzlies to like fall off into like a play-in team. They just added Marcus Smart, so they'll have Smart and Bane, I assume, start together. While John Morant is gone, you still have Jaren Jackson. Steven Adams is still there, and I believe the Grizzlies, if I'm not mistaken, still hold all their future draft picks. So there's always still a world where this team maybe makes that big trade at the deadline for whoever. I don't know, whoever becomes available at that moment. Maybe they're a team that's looking to make an upgrade. So I mean, I could see them. I could see them being solid this year still. I mean, John Morant missing time is going to suck, but they should be all right.
Yeah, I also have the Grizzlies at 6. So we have the same there. Um, yeah, I don't know if like this is too high or too low because they've like you mentioned have been able to withstand injuries in the past and have done surprisingly well without Ja in previous years. So I expect that to continue, and I think they're super well coached, and they have both good offensive and defensive pieces. They can still score the ball. They play at a much faster. Uh, they play at a fast tempo, even without Ja, which is surprising as well. But yeah, I just think they're solid, and they until they prove otherwise that they can't stay in a race without their guys, and then it'll be a huge boost for them when they get Ja back because it's not like he's hurt or anything, so he'll be healthy and ready to play. You would imagine right when he gets back, and so I think they could withstand it for 25 games and be fine as long as Jaren Jackson stays healthy, which is also a concern. He has had some injury problems as well early in his career, but I think they're pretty. They're one of the teams you can kind of count on to be in the mix and be in this range, no matter what happens to them, because they're just that solid of a team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said. My number 5 was that darling team you talked about earlier. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm the one that's out there drinking the Kool-Aid on this team. We all know how good Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was last year. Josh Giddey's only going to keep getting better. I mean, I said this about the Grizzlies. We all know what kind of draft pick capital that the Thunder have. Is there a world where they make that big move at the deadline to make their team even better? I expect Chet to elevate this team. And obviously, it is tough to make that jump from where you're, being a play-in / non-playoff team to being a top seed in the West. But we've seen the Suns do it. We saw the Kings do it. So I can see the Thunder doing it as well. So I am drinking the Kool-Aid on the Thunder. I'm expecting a big year from them, like a lot of other people are.
Yeah, they're a fun team too. One thing I didn't mention outside of Chet, that my biggest concern with the Thunder is they do not have a lot of bigs.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And that might be what their all-in move is just to find a perfect front court mate for Chet. But I am really worried about their depth in the front court. They traded Jeremiah Robinson Earl today. So I just I don't know how they're gonna handle an injury to Chet this year because they don't really have many guys there.
They'll throw all their draft picks at the Nets for Claxton, maybe. I don't know.
Dude, that would be such an amazing fit.
Yeah, it would be. I agree.
All right, at number 5, I have the Golden State Warriors. Might seem kind of low, but they were the 6th seed last year, right? And yeah, I don't know. I think they're fine. I don't think they're going to be like one of the top seeds, but also as long as they're continuing to go for it, I don't think they're going to be like a play-in team either. So I think they're just solidly in that mix right in the middle where they're going to get into the playoffs and not have to play in the play-in, but not quite good enough to be one of the top seeds.
Yeah, I'm at 4, so literally right above you. One thing I'm wondering is if Chris Paul is on this team after the trade deadline. I don't know if they'd be willing to move him. I don't know if there's some team lining up for him maybe when we get there. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with Chris Paul because obviously I don't think anyone really expected him to be traded there. He's there now. We'll see how they work it out there. Should be an interesting, little fit to watch over there with Chris Paul and the Warriors.
Yeah, you wonder. I mean, there was that whole incident before last season with Jordan Poole and Draymond, like how much that affected their season last year. Uh, Chris Paul is another one of those huge locker room ego guys. So like, how does that mesh with a guy like Draymond who's had issues with him in the past already? But I think Chris Paul's gonna recognize that. I mean, his time's fading pretty fast in this league. This is his last good shot, I think, to win a title. And so I think he'll just do whatever this team needs. I think that he's actually like a good fit with the Warriors. I'm actually kind of scared about how good he might fit. But at the same time, despite a lot of Jordan Poole's faults, he was a guy who could come in and score out the bench or start if he needed to and provide a spark at times. And to not have that scoring outburst anymore, they are going to be a little bit more reliant on health than they have the last couple of years, in my opinion. And that's scary because they're an older team that is starting to break down.
Yeah, Draymond's already hurt as it is right now, so yeah. Absolutely everything. I agree with what you said.
All right, top 4. Who's the home court advantage teams in the West?
Well, mine was the Warriors, so now we're in top 3. All right, what was your? Did you say your 4?
I haven't not said my 4
Yeah,
yet.
say your 4, and we get top 3.
My number 4 is the Clippers. Part of this is kind of projecting them to make a big trade for a guard, whether that's Harden or Brogdon or someone. I think they will at some point make a move and try to give them some backcourt depth that they have not had to sustain some injuries to their front court. But yeah, I don't know. I just have this weird feeling like one of Kawhi or Paul George is going to stay relatively healthy. I still feel like they have a lot of good role players, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think they'll be fine. But I think they will make an all-in move. I actually think the opposite of you though. They have this arena that looks super nice, but it's supposed to be ready for next off season. So after this season, they'll be playing there. And I feel like Kawhi and Paul George won't have the value in a trade to get them like another star back. Their value might be kind of low in a trade. And I don't see them just like flat out rebuilding heading into the new stadium with Ballmer willing to spend whatever it takes to win. So I think this probably the wrong decision if it doesn't, especially if it doesn't work out this year, because like how many more years can you keep going to it and hoping it'll be different? It's kind of like the Zion situation with New Orleans. But I just feel like Ballmer won't be ready to move on just because he wants the team to be good and isn't ready to like be bad with trying to open up a new arena.
They just got to get Tower Hero. He can sell tickets, probably. No,
Right.
I'm just kidding. No, that's a very good point for sure. I didn't even really think about that aspect, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But now we're on our top 3, and it sounds like we're all in agreement on at least who is in the top 3. Obviously, the order is different. We'll see, we'll see if it is different. My number 3, I had the Phoenix Suns. Suns at number 3. I think the big 3 gets it done. I love what they were able to do this offseason. Matt Ishbia is not afraid to spin. So yeah, I'm expecting the Suns just, with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, they'll make it work. And I mean, they got Nurkic as well now, who I think is a good fit. as long as he can stay healthy. You have Eubanks. I mean, that'll be a fun little center duo, that Suns fans could argue over this year. But yeah, I mean, I think Durant Booker gets them, top 3 in the West.
Did you like the Ayton trade for them?
Yes and no. Like, I understand that Ayton, you probably had to get rid of him. And I'm not really sure there was another center out there that you could have gotten. Like, one center that I always thought about for them was like Capella. I don't know if the Hawks were going to be willing to do that, but Capella would have been like another perfect guy for them. But I'm not. It's tough to say. Like, I feel like they had to get rid of Ayton, so like in a way, I do like it. But I mean, getting that return for Ayton doesn't feel great either when you spent number 1, draft capital on him.
Yeah, pass on Luka too.
Yeah, that stings.
Yeah, I feel like last year they should have, because the Pacers signed him to that offer sheet, and they matched it. But before they signed him, there was you knew the Pacers were interested in him. So like, why did they just take Miles Turner for him, man?
Yeah, I always thought that was gonna happen. I thought that was 100% gonna happen. It made all the sense in the world, but it never materialized.
Like, imagine them with Miles Turner right now,
Yeah.
with that, and then get Beal. Like, that would be so crazy.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I actually have the Suns at 2. I think they're just so talented. Unfortunately, KD has been hurt a lot last year. Common theme, I guess. Injuries going to play a part. Beal hasn't been exactly healthy, but you also wonder how much of that is kind of similar to Dame, where he's just not playing because they're trying to lose games at the end of seasons and stuff. But yeah, the Suns I have at number 2. I don't think they're as good as who my number 1 team is in the regular season. But definitely, I think, much like the Bucks at number 2 in the Eastern Conference, I think the Suns are going to be deadly in the playoffs and a really tough matchup for teams.
So I'm guessing your not your Lakers. The Lakers are at that 3.
Not my Lakers.
I know, my bad.
Yes.
Lakers are at 3.
Lakers at 3. The Lakers at 3.
I have them at 2, so it's backwards
right.
for us, but flipped.
Yeah.
But the Nuggets won. I mean, they're the best team in the NBA, defending champions. I do worry about their bench a little bit after losing Bruce Brown, but I mean, I think they've done a fine job at getting guys to contribute. And then obviously Lakers, they were great after the trade deadline. Obviously there was always the big problem with Russell Westbrook. That was never a good trade. I think everyone in the world saw that, other than maybe LeBron James. He just wanted the name. And they finally were able to get rid of him. And ever since the Russell Westbrook trade, Rob Pelinka has been a great GM for the Lakers. I mean, he found a way to get 3 solid role players for Russell Westbrook, which I thought surprising. Obviously, Malik Beasley didn't stick around. Jared Vanderbilt, they were able to extend, and then it was D'Angelo Russell. Sorry, D'Angelo Russell, they extended him as well. So, really solid trade for them at the deadline with Russell Westbrook's contract.
Yeah, then they pick up Gabe Vincent and Christian Wood and
Jackson Hayes, Cameron Reddish.
Yeah, I don't know about those last 2.
Yeah, I know. I just throw their name in there.
Hayes actually looked pretty good in preseason, so maybe they found something there. I mean, he was a top 10 pick and is super athletic and run the floor and stuff like that. Maybe they can unlock something. But I don't think they really need him that badly. But Christian Wood, I think, is a good fit, especially next to Anthony Davis if he's healthy, because Anthony Davis can kind of make up for Wood's defensive liabilities and stuff like that. But Wood and Anthony Davis, I think, will play really well off each other on offense. And then, LeBron's the oldest player in the league, so you worry how much he has left in the tank at times. But at times he's shown he's like superhuman and can do anything. But he's missed a bunch of games in recent years as well. But yeah, I think their depth now allows them to survive some of those injuries to Anthony Davis and LeBron. So they'll miss games. I think they're deep enough. Austin Reeves should take a huge jump. Prove something into the playoffs. Was on Team USA, had a good run this summer. So definitely have the pieces. I don't think they're as spry and as young and as good as my top two teams, and I am kind of scared that the Lakers are going to just play for the playoffs and not really care about the regular season and just make sure they make it into to one of the top 6 seeds and not really care about home court or anything. But yeah, I definitely think they're going to be one of the teams to beat in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. Rui Hachimura is someone I forgot to even name. As soon as they got him out over there, he was phenomenal. Wizards sold him for like Wizards didn't give him, barely got anything for him. So yeah, the Lakers solid roster right now, and they should be in the top 3 in the thick of things. But then obviously Nuggets. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to go in a little spiel about them or not.
Yeah, for me, I think Bruce Brown, that loss will cost them a championship again or a repeat championship, but I don't think it cost them anything in the regular season. Christian Brown is showing that he can step up. Julian Strawther has looked really good as a rookie here in preseason. Like, he's ready to play right away. So I think he can step into that role a little bit. He's solid on both ends. Obviously not as good on defense as Bruce Brown, but might actually be an offensive upgrade. So they have pieces. They always find depth. They draft really well for need and role players and stuff like that. So I think they'll be fine. And I mean, Jokic is just we talked about all these injury problems, but that guy just shows up and plays pretty much every night. You don't really have to worry about injuries with him. He can seemingly horse race and do all kinds of crazy stuff all summer and not touch a basketball if you believe him, and just come right in and dominate like it doesn't even matter. So yeah, I think as long as they have Jokic and Aaron Gordon now has the confidence of a championship player. You do have to worry about the health of Murray and Michael Porter Jr., but I don't know. I just think they're so good that they should be the team that should be in the number 1 spot most of the season in the West.
That was our standings predictions. I mean, let us know down in the comment section below what you think about them. But to end it off, we're gonna do our awards, real quick awards here. Where do you want to start, though? I mean, is there one you want to start on, or does it matter to you?
Sure. Let's start with one of the lower ones. Let's do 6th man of the year. Who do you got?
Bro, this one was tough for me because I didn't even really know who to choose. I feel like mine is stupid. I have Norman Powell.
Actually, yeah, that's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
He's coming off the bench.
Yeah.
He can score.
And his goal was, I think he said something crazy recently that he wanted to average. Was it make an all-star game or I forgot he said something. So I'm not saying that's like, I'm not saying that's like the reason why it's gonna happen, but I don't know.
Let me bring something up real quick. I'm on BetUS, who's Blazers Uprise Sportsbook sponsor this year. I just want to see where they have some of these players as we talk about them.
Another guy I considered was Robert Williams. I considered that, but
interesting.
Because I know he'll probably. I mean, I know he'll be coming off the bench most likely. So that was something I thought about.
Yeah, my guy who I chose is Malik Monk.
Okay, that's a great one. I didn't even consider that one.
I think he showed a lot in the playoffs, and it tends to go to someone who's like a scorer off the bench. It's usually not
anyone.
Like a role player or whatever. So that's why I don't think Norman Powell's like that bad of a bet. The betting favorite is Emmanuel Quickly, who I think is really good, but I don't know. It's hard for me to envision him just keep putting up stats on a team that has a bunch of good guards in front of him. He's kind of blocked. I think they should have probably moved on from him But Brogdon's still second in
Yeah, I don't.
odds, which is funny.
I
But
mean, he's probably
your guy Norman Powell is third.
yeah. I mean, Brogdon's probably a starter somewhere after the deadline. I don't think there's any chance he's on this team after the deadline. Like, there's no way. I assume he won't be anyway, but who knows? I guess.
I got my guy Malik Monk fourth best odds, and then Bobby Portis, and then Chris Paul at sixth best odds, which is interesting because he might start.
Yeah, that's
so
why.
who
That's why I
knows?
didn't want to put Chris Paul either. Because funny in 2K, Chris Paul always wins it. But like, I don't know if Chris Paul is gonna start or not. That's the weird thing about it.
Yeah.
But do you want to do Rookie of the Year next?
Yeah, let's do Rookie of the Year.
I
We obviously know who the favorite is, but
It's Vic, right?
yeah.
But similar to what Ben Simmons did to Donovan Mitchell, I got Chet doing it to Victor Wembanyama. I think Chet.
He's gonna come in.
It
and
fits
rob him,
my
huh?
it fits my agenda with the Thunder being as good as they are this year, so I kind of correlated that together. So I got Chet going out there winning Rookie of the Year.
Interesting. Yeah, let me see. I have all rookie teams. There's Rookie of the Year. I have Victor. I think Wemby. It's his to lose, basically. Now he could easily lose it just because, well, one, he could get hurt. Two, he could be limited on. They could just take it easy with him and kind of load manage him. He doesn't fall under the rules because in order to be considered for penalties for load managing, you have to have made like an All NBA team in the last 3 years, I believe. So
That is something I did not know, so I'm happy to have learned that.
so I don't think any rookies also the Rookie of the Year and all rookie teams are the only awards that do not have the 65 game qualifier to make it. So I just think the guy is just so dynamic and so fun to watch, and it's going to get so much hype all year that unless he just doesn't play enough games or for some reason really struggles, which I don't anticipate, I just think they're going to give it to him no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's either Vic or Chet. I wanted to consider Scoot, but I think Simon's just going to take too much away from him. If Scoot had like the floor and Simons wasn't here, then I think he'd have a way better chance. But I think it's going to be tough with Simons in front of him. I mean, they'll probably start together. Don't get me wrong, but obviously Simons is going to handle the ball a lot too, which is why I couldn't consider Scoot, unfortunately.
Yeah, so BetUS has Victor Wembanyama with even money for Rookie of the Year, which is crazy. Scoot Henderson's actually 2 at plus 250, and Chet Holmgren is third at plus 300. And then it's a huge jump to Brandon Miller fourth at plus 1400.
Yeah, if Brandon Miller goes out there and wins Rookie of the Year, then the Hornets did something right. But that is going to be – I can't be the one to predict that at all.
There's some good value out there. If you think one of those top 3 aren't going to make it, like Amen Thompson is plus 2,500, Cam Whitmore plus
those are some juicy numbers, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
I don't
weird.
see how
The
they
Rocket,
would.
yeah. If Amon Thompson had the full floor, then go by all means, I would do it.
Right.
But that's probably why the numbers are so juicy because of that factor. So
No, they had to sign Fred VanVleet.
yeah, Fred VanVleet. Let's do most improved.
Alright.
I wonder if we have the same pick here. I have Anthony Simons.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think.
Nice. I did not have anything.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, he may have too good of numbers already, so maybe this doesn't work for him. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like he's hated around the league too, or not. Maybe not everybody, but he is very undervalued, and he is going to be the number one option on this team. Does that mean he's going to go average 30 points per game? Probably not, but I could see him having a really good season statistically. So I have Simons as most improved.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's hard when, like you mentioned, a player averages like 21 a game, and even if he improves to like 25, 26, which would be a huge jump, it's like, is that a big enough improvement? But then you look at a couple years ago when Ja won it over Bane, his teammate, and he's like basically told Bane he'd give him the award because he didn't think he deserved it, but his numbers weren't like that much greater. It's just like he just takes a slight jump, but like everyone just loves him, so that could happen with Simons. especially with all the talk about how he's worth nothing in trades and all that kind of stuff. But if he goes out and plays like Dame this year, like, yeah, he could definitely win it, I think. But my pick is Cade Cunningham. I think, he's the number one pick, and a lot of it has to do with him being injured. So people have kind of either forgotten about him or don't think he's that good, or maybe a bust, like kind of could be a bust. But I just think he's going to be healthier and prove to people why he was the number one pick. And I think he's just such a dynamic player that it'll just pop if he's healthy. And despite his stats maybe being similar to when he was healthy in years past, I think people will just see him in a different light, just the way he runs a team and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is the year he breaks out finally.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Coach of the year? Do you want to do Actually, I want to save this one because I think I kind of correlated this one with a different one. Let's do.
Well, real quick, most improved. We had Mikal Bridges is the betting favorite, yeah, with Tyrese Maxey second, but kind of along the lines of what you said. Both of those guys were really good last year, so it's hard to improve much more.
Yeah,
on it.
it's gonna be somebody that no one expects, kind of like what Markkanen. I mean, I guess some people could have maybe saw that coming, but like, I wonder if it's gonna be somebody like just no one's looking. I mean, maybe not as much, but like, we knew he was gonna have like a nice role there in Utah once they traded everyone that they did, but no one expected him to be as good as he was. But let's do defensive player of the year.
All right.
I kind of hinted at this one earlier. I got Evan Mobley winning this bad boy. Evan Mobley, defensive player of the year. I think the Cavs make a big jump. Evan Mobley's going to be a big reason for that.
Yeah, I definitely. It came down to him and the guy I ended up picking. I don't know. For some reason, I just don't think Mobley's going to get the votes this year. I think no matter how good he is, I don't know. I think he's still a year or two away. But he's second in odds, so yeah, it could be silly. Jaren Jackson's first, which I don't think he's going to win again, even if he has the same exact year as last year. I don't think he's gonna win again. They have Giannis third, which is weird to me. But they have fourth, the guy who I picked, and someone who probably should have won this award in a previous year already, but hasn't. And I think after his defensive playoff performance last year, and if he can replicate that this year, I think he'll finally get the credit he's deserved, and that's Bam Adebayo.
Okay, that's a good one. I was like, I wonder who this is. Bam makes a lot of sense. I could definitely see that one for sure. But let's get into
MVP and Coach of the Year.
Yeah, let's do Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year,
right.
JB Bickerstaff. I'm all in the Cavs. I think the Cavs make a huge jump. Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player, and then they go up third seed, and then Bickerstaff gets a huge nod for that. So I got him winning Coach of the Year. Might be wild, but that's what I got.
Are you worried at all about him not being the coach?
that could be. That definitely could happen.
Yeah, I similar to you, I was looking for a team that kind of exceeded expectations. There wasn't like a team that I thought, because like a lot of the, like, if you're looking at Michael Malone, like the Nuggets are supposed to be the 1 seed, they're coming off a championship, like maybe he'll get votes because of last season, which happens sometimes. And then I thought about Spoelstra just because he's never won it either, and he's a really good coach, but I didn't want to go too heavy into the Heat and have that narrative, right? No, just kidding. And then you got like Adrian Griffin's the new coach for the Bucks, but like even if they're the 1 seed, I don't know if he's getting that much credit for Dame and Giannis carrying them. Joe Mazzulla, I don't know, like, is he getting that much credit if Porzingis and Drew stay healthy and that team's really good? I don't think so. Frank Vogel, if he can have that defense in Phoenix playing well, maybe he could get some votes, even though they're a high seed. But same thing, they have KD and Booker and Beal. Like, how much is coaching really the difference there? So for me, I looked at the Grizzlies and what they could potentially do if they just keep doing what we talked about earlier, and that's seemingly win games without Ja. So if Taylor Jenkins can keep them afloat and get into the playoffs this year, despite all the issues with Ja, I think he will win the award.
I like that one a lot. That's a good one. I also consider Mark I forget. I don't know how to say his last name, but Mark Dagnall. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It's Dagnall. Yeah.
Did he win it last year, or am I crazy? No, he didn't win it last year. I'm insane. That's not true at all. I don't know why I thought that, but yeah, that was another one I considered.
Was it? Didn't Mike Brown win it last year?
Yeah, duh. Oh my God, I'm stupid. Yeah, Mike Brown won it last year. So Mark is definitely one I considered as well. I kind of wish I went with him instead, because I think if the Thunder are good, he's probably gonna get the votes. I feel like.
Yeah, especially since they're still a pretty young team. So
yeah, for sure.
Coach does have a lot bigger influence on that kind of situation.
MVP. I mean, we all know the MVP is not the best player. It's the best narrative now. That's what it is.
Right.
I mean, that's what I feel like it is. And with me saying that, I don't know if this really has a narrative behind it. I mean, obviously, you could go Jokic. You can go Embiid to win it again. There's Giannis. I don't think – I mean, obviously, I wanted to pick Luka Doncic, but I just don't think they're going to be high enough in the standings. So I have Jason Tatum. I think the Celtics are going to be a really good team. I think he's going to be a big reason for that. The guy can do it all, and I know some people do hate on him quite a bit. But I think I think the Celtics are going to be really good this year, obviously, and I think Tatum's going to be a big reason for that. He'll be the lead guy there. So yeah, I have Jason Tatum as an MVP candidate here.
Very interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say bold, but like I don't think there's going to be many people.
I try to be different
outside the big ones. Yeah. For me, last year I thought Luka was going to win it because he was coming off a season that he elevated his team in the playoffs. And once again, I know it's a regular season award and previous seasons don't factor in, but the narrative last year was Jokic hasn't won anything. Like, so why are we keep giving him the MVP when he's not winning in the playoffs, right? And then he's won it the last 2 years. Like, or we're not going to give it to him for a third year when he hasn't won any of the other years we've given it to him. So the fact that he not only won it last year, but proved to everyone that he should have probably won it last year again, I think that narrative will be if he's the best player, he's going to get the votes, and no one will have those narratives like you talked about to where, oh, we can't vote for him for a third year in a row. We got to give it to someone new this year, which I think Embiid deserved. Like, he's been one of the best players, so like I don't think it was like that much of a travesty to give it to Embiid. But I think they'll swing back to giving Jokic all his flowers this year, and he'll be back to being the MVP.
I love the reasoning for it. Obviously I considered Jokic, but I was like, voters fatigue is going to play a role here. But what you explained makes a lot of sense. I think that could definitely be a reason for him winning if he is to win it again. But I don't think there's anything else here we have to say.
Yeah, I mean, clutch player is just such a guess.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It'll be Dame.
I don't know.
Yeah. Damian Lillard wins clutch player of the year, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But comment down below anything you agree, disagree with. If you want to comment down your predictions for standings, awards, whatever you want to do. We're open to reading them, obviously. But other than that, you have anything else to add before we sign off here?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate everyone. We've gotten tons of good feedback on the show so far. Appreciate all of those who have reached out or left comments or have simply watched the video. If you haven't already, please like the video. It helps us out. It's a way to contribute without having to do much of anything other than click a button, and really helps the channel out. So it's much appreciated. And then, if you want to subscribe to Blazers Uprise podcast, there's a lot of other good shows on this channel as well. And our show is now on an RSS feed, so you can listen to it via where you get your podcasts, right? Yeah, so if you want to just listen to us that way, that should now be an option as well. I'll make sure Tori puts that in the description of the video so you can click on that. And then also Blazers Uprise will be bringing it this year once again. We'll have pregame content, postgame shows, live in-game watch parties, all that good stuff, along with videos all season. So make sure you're subscribed to the main channel as well. And then also check out Crushables, the great Crushables channel here on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, go do so immediately because his channel is awesome. And just really fun videos. And just really easy to listen to. And I'm sure you'll all enjoy it if you're enjoying these podcasts.
Thank you so much for that at the very end. But that is going to do it for us on this edition of Hoops Crush. So with that all being said, this is Hoops Crush. Peace out. Go Blazers.